humblemud.
As you may know, I've been putting a real focus on my backlog this year, and in the midst of that, I realized recently that I unintentionally played 3 Capcom classics back to back to back for the very first time. Not only that, but each of these 3 games, in their own unique ways, ended up being the perfect experiences for me to have considering the life circumstances that I was navigating. I had just fractured my elbow, so I needed to be in a sling 24/7 and was ordered to use my left arm as little as possible. And I'm left-handed, by the way. So in my OPOONA video, I asked you guys for suggestions of one-handed friendly games, and that reminded me that I had Phoenix Wright Ace Attorney, a visual novel, on my backlog. And suddenly I thought, maybe I shouldn't chase what I can't have. Maybe I should embrace this slower period in my life and play something that fits that current pace. And oh my gosh, no one told me that this was anything but slow. Phoenix Wright Ace Attorney is an absolutely riveting experience. Now, I'm not going to spoil anything, and all footage shown here is from the first chapter of the game, but I will tell you that you never know what's going to come next when you're going in blind like I did. I mean, there's something that happens within the first couple hours of the game that had my jaw drop. I honestly was like, they can do that? And I was surprised throughout the game just how quickly I latched onto and was interested in all of these characters navigating through various forms of chaos around these legal offices, courtrooms, and police stations. I really loved getting to know the Faye sisters, Maya and Mia, Detective Gumshoe, Phoenix of course, and even the antagonists of this game have layers to them. Alliances shift as the whodunit mysteries unravel, and there is such a great deal of catharsis when you find something that allows you to draw your own conclusions together. You show up in the courtroom the next day with this hot piece of evidence fired up and ready to go for the perfect moment, catch someone in a lie, and yell, "Objection!" Phoenix slamming his fist down like that desk owes him money, and hilarity ensues. The reactions and animations across the board are so deliberately over the top and well done, and there is just such a sense of satisfaction giving stoic, self-important people who clearly think they know way more than Phoenix does a real run for their money. It's a perfect courtroom drama where nothing ever feels contrived or nonsensical, even though it has a lot of humor as well. There were moments where it took me a bit to figure out exactly how the game wanted me to solve a case, but when I did go about it the way that it was, silently leading me toward, I was always happy with and often surprised by the outcome and just how brilliantly everything wrapped up. And real quick, the music. Look, Capcom's been putting out heaters since stuff like Ghosts and Goblins and Mega Man in the 80s, so this shouldn't have surprised me, but it did. The music in Ace Attorney is always perfect for the scene that you're in. It keeps you engaged, and I also think every sound effect and voice line used works in tandem with those energetic chiptunes. Together, the sound design keeps the pace and mystery moving forward, pushing you to read the next line of dialogue, and the next, and the next, and the next. And since the game has a variety of control inputs from buttons to the touchscreen, optional auto-progressing text, and the ability to detach the Joy-Cons if you're playing this on the Switch like I did, Ace Attorney was an incredibly accessible and accommodating game for me considering my injuries. Whether I was out on the field hunting for evidence, navigating intense or awkward conversations with others, or trying to put someone on blast in the courtroom, Ace Attorney never got in my way. It just said, here I am, play me however you want to play me, and I really appreciated that. And knowing that the games only get better and better as you go, I'm so happy to share that I'm a fan of the series and can't wait to play more. I get it now. I get the hype and I understand why this thing has become such a big part of internet culture. You'll often see those objection memes even outside of the gaming sphere, and I think Ace deserves that legacy. What a game. While I was encouraging the judge to do the right thing and protect the innocent in the court of law, Miss Humblemud was secretly becoming obsessed with Resident Evil Requiem. She was watching all kinds of content about the game. Now, she's not really a gamer necessarily, but a big way that we connect together is playing horror games. She loves watching me play scary stuff, and after she started learning about the Resident Evil universe, she was quietly hoping that I would break my backlog rule this year and pick it up after my arm healed. When the time finally came, and I was cleared to slip out of my sling, she was practically begging me to get Requiem. However, I'm committed to the backlog, and I instead offered another solution. I do have Resident Evil 2 Remake, and we haven't played that one yet, so why don't we do that? Everything about this game that I had seen looked gorgeous, and so I couldn't have imagined a better introduction to the series for her than this. Plus, considering Leon first showed up in RE2, it felt like the perfect way to start exploring the series together before jumping into Requiem. For that reason, we started with his campaign. Now, I'll be honest, I grew up with Resident Evil 4, so the very first night that we played, I was trying to roundhouse kick every zombie I could, and I learned very quickly that they don't play like that in Raccoon City. The zombies in RE2 Remake are tough, and if you're unlucky, it can take several shots to take them down. I think I was so eager to show Miss Humblemud a good time after all of this time that I initially was playing this like an action hero, and I got humbled real quick. Plus, this was the first night I had both my arms back, so I think I was just anxious. Anyway, the next day, I changed my approach and played this game properly. We took our time, we investigated, we didn't get into unnecessary fights, and we dove into the darkness with a sense of cautious urgency rather than ignorant urgency. And while I think she wasn't initially sure what to think about RE2 Remake because of my initial blunders, when we started uncovering the secrets of the Raccoon City Police Department, including running into a certain really big guy who has an affinity for hats, Miss Humblemud was locked in with me. Seriously, we would be getting home from work and she was like, okay, we're whipping up some food and then we're playing Resident Evil, and that's rare for her, guys. And while I know people have their opinions on the remakes versus the originals, and that's totally fine, one thing that's true in both games is that, like any good Resident Evil game, the environment itself is a really compelling character. The atmosphere in that police department is oppressive and foreboding. The zombies are hell-bent on consuming you, and you've got to be clever and decisive if you want to survive. I also really liked a lot of the creative choices made in regard to the characters. Marvin in particular was such a standout character in that game, and it's amazing how much of an impression he leaves after such a short amount of time. Certainly one of my favorite side characters in the series for sure. What really surprised me was how much I wanted more by the time I beat Leon's campaign. I'll be honest, unless it's a comfort game of some sort, I rarely want to go back to a game and play through it again. I'm just always excited to jump over to whatever the next thing is. This time though, things were different, and the moment that I saw Claire and Leon separate, I was interested in seeing her side of the story too. And again, no spoilers here, but Claire's campaign was far and away both of our favorites. Her story goes in places I'd never expect, her weapons are more fun for me to use personally, and I love that a good bit of the information that you uncover through Leon's campaign will aid you in Claire's. And yes, of course we're excited for the Code Veronica remake now. RE2 Remake is a great game if you play one side of the story, but it is a phenomenal game if you experience both. Yeah, there are some things I enjoy about the original over the remake, but overall, I'm just glad that they both exist, and for us, more importantly, I'm glad that we were able to get back and connect over something that we really like doing together, and I couldn't imagine a better way to celebrate healing from this injury each afternoon than that. But now it was my time. After we bested the Umbrella Corporation, I was ready to sit down and play something for me. You see, right before my injury, there was a backlog game sitting in the back of my mind, constantly calling out to me. Growing up, I remember seeing this game called Onimusha Warlords in my local game store. I didn't really know anything about it, but much like Maximo or Jak and Daxter or God of War, Onimusha was one of those games whose box art just burned into my brain, one of those games that I just knew I was missing out on since I didn't have a PlayStation 2. I didn't know why I was missing out on it, but I just knew. And it might seem silly to you that box art stuck with me for so long because it is minimalistic, but to me it was just striking with that white and red contrast and Summonosuke's stoic but fierce expression. Even sillier on my part, this game has a version on the OG Xbox, a console that I actually had back then, but I was a dumb kid and the internet wasn't quite what it is today, so I didn't know it existed. All of this led to me finally experiencing Genma Onimusha on the original Xbox. The way I could have experienced it back then had things been a bit different. And what a treat it was. Starting this game up, I just knew that my intuition about this thing was right all along. This is such an effortlessly cool game with fantastic visuals, character and monster designs, and cutscenes, especially for the time. And it's no wonder it captured the imagination of little kid me. It really was a graphical showpiece, especially on the Xbox. Taking place in 1500s feudal Japan, this is a game that blends historical reality with the supernatural in all the best ways. While it's it's not a horror game, it was built off of the Resident Evil franchise, originally intended to be an entry in the series. It's funny how that happened twice during this era, by the way. So you've got fixed camera angles, pre-rendered backgrounds, tank controls, and a familiar heavy atmosphere, but the game differentiates itself drastically through its story and combat. Starting out as a typical Save the Princess story where Samanosuke goes on a quest to save Princess Yuki from Nobunaga's forces, you quickly realize that there's so much more than meets the eye because this world is also filled with demons and spirits who vow to take you down as well. Armed with your newfound demon gauntlet, which is so freaking cool, by the way, you absorb the spirits of your fallen foes to grow stronger, heal, and push forward. That is, if you can fell your foes in the first place. What I didn't realize before jumping in is that Genma Onimusha is a hard mode director's cut version of the original Onimusha Warlords. This game really tested me. The most immediate major change to this version of the game is in its soul system. Just like in the original, yellow souls heal you, blue souls replenish magic, and red souls you can think of as kind of like experience points to invest in building your character and weapons. But Genma introduces green souls, a soul type that is exclusive to this version, not even present in the PS4 remaster of the game. Now, I'd like to think that they're a cheeky little nod to the green Xbox branding, but they also completely changed the gameplay by adding this push and pull flow within the game's combat. If you manage to absorb 5 of these, you can unleash an ultimate form, giving you invincibility and health regen at a moment's notice. It can absolutely make the difference between life and death here. But the twist here is that the demons can absorb those green souls too, and now you've got this tug of war going on where you have to rapidly press the A button if you want that soul. And trust me, you do, because their berserk mode that they get for absorbing these souls can be terrifying. And as you can imagine, you're vulnerable when you're doing this soul tug of war thing, so sometimes you have to let it go so that you don't get hit. This completely changes the flow of combat to an already pretty complex system for the time, and it's entirely unique to this version of the game even today. Additionally, no spoilers, but there's also an additional area to explore, as well as a new enemy who acts similar to the guy who loves hats in RE2. If you know, you know. Now, Genma Onimusha is a short game at like 4 to 6 hours or so, depending on how good you are, but that time for me was padded a bit because of the difficulty and the hurdles I faced learning the control scheme. It definitely took me a little more time than what most people reported on how long to beat. You can only move with the D-pad, and you have to press in the right stick to pause the game, and I think that's enough to convey just how odd the control scheme is. Looking back, I'm kind of glad I'm playing it today because I don't think I could have done it as a kid. Nevertheless, it does eventually click, and it's so rewarding to master this game. At the end of the day, the thing that this game does best is just be cool. There's really nothing quite like charging up your mystical katana and unleashing super strong attacks on opponents. While Ace Attorney allowed me to immerse myself in an engrossing tale while being injured, Resident Evil 2 Remake allowed Miss Humblemud and I to bond over a great horror story once again. Genma Onimusha pushed me to my limits and said, "Welcome back. Now get good." Time and time again, Capcom has really pulled through for me over the years with their variety of experiences, and this time, whether I was slamming desks, popping zombie kneecaps, or slashing through demons, they did it again. I'd love to know what you guys think of these games if you've played them, or if there are any other Capcom games that you really enjoy and would like to recommend. If you're still here, thanks so much for watching, and as always, stay humble.